Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Miss Wiseman's Words of the Wise webcast. Today we are going to be talking about checks and balances and how it relates to the United States Constitution. First, let's look at a current event situation where checks and balances was put into place. Hopefully you guys watched the news over the summer and saw that this August Syria posed a threat of chemical weapons that they were going to use. So in order to combat that, President Obama went to Congress to ask Congress permission in order to strike Syria.
President Obama has asked Congress for $500 million to train and equip moderate rebel groups in Syria. The request is part of the Defense Department's overseas budget, and the White House says it will be used to help vetted elements of the Syrian armed opposition to fight both Bashar al-Assad and al-Qaeda-linked militants. Obama has been under pressure from some lawmakers, like Senators John McCain and Bob Casey, to ramp up aid to the Syrian opposition. Last month, he announced he would seek the resources to do just that.
In helping those who fight for the right of all Syrians to choose their own future, we are also pushing back against the growing number of extremists who find safe haven in the chaos.
The $500 million budget would expand an existing program by the CIA to recruit and train moderate rebel groups. It also would force Congress, rather than the White House, to deal with the question of whether to send more aid into the war-torn country.
So why did he have to ask Congress's permission first? Well, actually it's because this French guy Montesquieu originated the term separation of power a long time ago during the French Enlightenment. Taking his ideas from ancient Roman government and the British constitutional system, he thought it would be a good idea in order for the government to separate its power, therefore decentralizing it and avoiding one singular ruler like this guy. Okay, so what does it have to do with America and Syria? Let's fast forward. The year is 1787, the place, Philly, and we're at the Constitutional Convention. Our founding fathers have all gathered to discuss and find a solution for the Articles of Confederation, which we should all know by now didn't really work out so well. So here at the convention, the United States Constitution was born. So one smart cookie, this handsome fellow, James Madison, who had already had a pretty good idea about what he wanted, we'll call that the Virginia Plan, called for 3 distinct branches of government. And he decided to apply Montesquieu's separation of power in order to protect our individual freedoms and avoid any abuses and mistakes from each of the branches of government. We decided to call this checks and balances, a way for each branch of government to be able to check the other 2. I'm back. All right, so we should all know the 3 branches of government, right? At least you should, but we'll review. So first we have the legislative branch, brought up first in the Constitution. This branch is made up of 100 senators and 435 representatives in the U.S. House, which together make up Congress. The legislative branch passes our laws, approves federal judges and justices, declares war, and passes the national budget. The legislative branch can also impeach the president. This guy was impeached for violating the Tenure of Office Act. This guy was impeached also, but you can Google why. Alright, so now that we know some of the legislative branch of government, who do they check and who's checking Congress? Well, in order to answer that, let's talk about the executive branch first. The president, this guy, and the vice president, this guy, make up the executive branch of government. The president appoints his own government officials, you know, his cabinet. However, Congress will have to confirm those appointments before they are official. Check. Next, the president can negotiate treaties with foreign leaders. Congress, however, has to ratify those treaties. Check. Alright, how about this one? The press can propose laws. However, Congress, with the majority of the vote, has to pass the law. The president, therefore, can either agree to it or veto that law. But wait, there's still a catch. Congress can then override a presidential veto with 2/3 House vote. Check, check, and check. There's still one more branch that we have to talk about, the judicial branch, our court system. They control the federal, the district, and most importantly, the Supreme Court. The judicial branch interprets the country's laws and sets out fair and just punishments for those who break them. The Supreme Court, which is made up of 9 federal justices, which, may I remind you, the president appoints, check, settles disputes among states, hears courts' appeals, and decides whether or not laws are unconstitutional. So how do we check them? We already know the president appoints our judges, so in exchange, Congress will approve them. Or do they? Let's take a look back at some history. All right, in 1987, President Ronald Reagan appointed Judge Robert Bork into the Supreme Court. However, his nomination was defeated. Okay. What else can the judicial branch do? The judicial branch can declare executive actions and congressional actions unconstitutional. Check and check. But wait, Congress can therefore propose amendments to overrule judicial decisions. And just like Congress can do to the president, they can also impeach and remove justices from the Supreme Court. Confusing, right? Let's try to break it down just a little bit. And that's it. That's all I have.